In today's video, I'm going to be answering the question, why do I believe that my mom alienated me from my dad? Hi, I'm Maddie, and welcome to the Anti-Alienation Project. Here I talk about all things related to a certain type of child psychological abuse called parental alienation. Parental alienation is when one parent, usually during a custody dispute or a divorce, but not always, manipulates their child into rejecting their other loving parent without true justification. It's a very severe, damaging form of abuse, and it's actually very common, although not many people know what it's called. I want to say off the bat, I'm not an expert or a therapist. I'm simply somebody who went through this abuse from the child's perspective for 20 years. I figured everything out about 2 years ago, and I've been rebuilding my relationship with my dad and speaking out against this form of abuse since last summer. I think some information in this video might surprise people. I know that most people are really familiar with the idea of a child being used as a weapon to hurt the other parent, but at least in my case, there are many more elusive and disturbing reasons why a parent would be so intent on destroying the child's relationship with their other parent. So this video is not going to be a very pleasant one, sorry, but I am going to expose why I believe I was alienated. So there are 4 reasons that I can pinpoint why my mom had this need within her to destroy my relationship with my dad, essentially. Although this video might put my mom in a negative light, I really want to express that's not my intention. I simply want to inform and educate people and shine light on this darkness. The first reason is probably pretty obvious to most people, and that is that my mom alienated me to hurt my dad. I'm the only girl in my family. I'm also the oldest kid, and I have 4 younger brothers, so my relationship with my dad was always really special to both of us. I was daddy's little girl. We had a really close relationship when I was young. The amount of anger and spite that I witnessed from my mom towards my dad, even 15 years, 20 years after they were divorced, tells me that it was a motive of hers to hurt my dad. And what better way to do that than to take away his relationship with his only daughter? What better way to do that to use his daughter as a mouthpiece, a stereo system to further her beliefs and ideas about who he was. I think that this motive was probably not her primary motive, though. It was something that gave her pleasure to twist the knife in him by manipulating and brainwashing me to believe certain lies and terrible things about him and that he doesn't love me. And that way she trained my brain to have certain beliefs about my dad, which caused me to do the rejecting and to believe that it was all my decision. The second reason why I believe I was alienated is something you might guess, which is to isolate and control me. If one parent has free reign over their child with no other parent to hold them accountable, it's much easier for that pathological parent to get away with whatever abuse they want to. Not to mention it's a way to isolate the child from not only their other parent, but also society, the extended family, friends. There are many different mechanisms that they use to isolate and control the child, but to get the other parent out of the picture is almost a precursor to being able to commit other types of neglect and abuse, which surely happened in my case. And from speaking to many other people who've been through this, it seems to be a common theme that the pathological parent will alienate the child because they isolate the child and they're controlling the child's life to such an extreme degree, or because they just don't have the child's best interest in mind. The child goes through additional forms of abuse and neglect and mistreatment that they probably wouldn't have gone through if the targeted parent had remained in their life. And the second reason to isolate and control the child, the emotion that is motivating, I believe, is not anger, but fear. Fear of the child choosing their other parent, or liking or loving or preferring their other parent over them. It's this low self-esteem and fear that they will lose control over their child. It's really sad when you think about it like that. It gets even more depraved. However, third reason I believe I was alienated is a little trickier, and it does have to do with jealousy. I've done a lot of thinking about this, and I never crossed my mind growing up that my mom was or could have been jealous of me. Not ever did that cross my mind until last year when my therapist brought it up, because I was the only child targeted, and my 4 younger brothers, they've been able to maintain really close, happy, healthy relationships with my dad the whole time. And I think there is something about the gender difference in my specific case. I'm not speaking for all alienated kids here at all, but in my specific case, I think there was jealousy. My dad and I have always had a really close relationship before the alienation, obviously, till the age of about 7 to 8. And I was daddy's little girl. He took a special interest in doing things with me. He was in charge. He put together a club for daddy-daughter activities that we did for several years. He really was a hands-on and really fun dad. I was proud that he was my dad. We just naturally got along really well. And I can imagine that if my mom had been, in her eyes, not treated well by my dad, their marriage was not good, and then eventually they're getting divorced, I can only imagine that she would have seen any love that existed between my dad and I as some type of threat, maybe. I just imagine her watching him love me in a way that she wasn't getting from him anymore, and I think that she definitely would have been jealous. Not okay with me being loved by my dad while she couldn't be loved by my dad. It goes back to the parents are getting a divorce. So it's the two people in the romantic relationship who are getting the separation, but the parent is forcing the child to get the separation too. And I just have to wonder if there's jealousy in there or envy or something, because she was fine with my brothers having a relationship with my dad, which also begs the question, which I never thought about while alienated, but I've thought about it since somebody left a comment one time, and the comment said, if your dad was so dangerous, if he really was that dangerous, why would she let your brothers go with him? So I guess the best way for me to phrase the third reason is, if I can't have him, neither can you. And I know that's really messed up because I'm her child and I'm not a competition for my dad's love. But I think that is how she saw me. She couldn't let me have a loving relationship with him because she didn't have that anymore. I think this might be hard for me to put this point in words, but the final reason why I think I was alienated from my dad, it was to ensure that she would never be alone. Please don't leave me. Promise me you'll never leave me. Promise me you will never put me in a nursing home. When I get old, promise me you'll take care of me. And this other belief of hers that she often expressed to me, which was, boys leave their mothers, but girls always stay. Promise me you'll stay. I think that's just something that was also taught to my mom, that was taught to me. But it is a little ironic that once I learned the truth, my family and I, we decided to move across the country. I could say a lot more about that too. But basically, my fourth thing is due to this extreme fear of being alone, almost like a phobia of being alone. And I think by alienating me from my dad, the idea is that I become completely dependent on my mom. And this was achieved in many other ways as well. For example, by homeschooling me, I became very dependent on my mom. By not having my dad in my life, I became very dependent on my mom. I quickly learned, okay, I'm never going to call my dad for advice or for emotional comfort or anything anymore. And I was made to believe dad doesn't care about your emotions. He doesn't want to talk about emotions. But you always have me to call. I'll be there no matter what. And so I've been trained not to call my dad for help or advice or emotional support. And I really believe that was one way that she thought that she would never be alone. Talking about all the motives for alienation, and this is just my story once again, I'm sure it's different case by case. Those are the 4 main reasons I think that I was alienated from my dad. I'm not mad, really. I feel really bad for her, honestly. To have that much fear inside of you and to be constantly obsessing over your kids leaving you or being alone or them liking the other parent more, God, that must be exhausting. It's just really sad to me. It feels like a lot of wasted years. This didn't have to happen. We could have had a good relationship. I wanted a good relationship. I just wanted to be loved by both parents. I just wanted to be able to be myself with both parents, and I wouldn't have rejected her. If I had been allowed to have a relationship with my dad, I wouldn't have rejected her. I really don't think so. Anyway, that's the end of this video. I hope that it was helpful or insightful for some people. Thank you for watching and for all of your support. I hope that everybody's having a good week and doing the best that you can be doing. And as a message of hope to end this video, I just hope that you can realize that this is nothing personal to you. If you're a targeted parent, this is nothing personal to you. This is caused by most likely a personality disorder, a pathology in their brain. They could have been married to anyone, and they would be doing this to that person. So don't let yourself ever believe those negative beliefs and lies that your child has been manipulated into accepting. No. For any people who've been through this as kids, I'm interested to hear your point of view. Can you relate to this at all? Why do you think that you were alienated? Put it in the comments below if you feel comfortable. And it's the same message to you. I hope that by hearing other people's experiences, you can realize that number one, you're not alone. And number two, this is not your fault either. You could have been any child. You could have been any other person. And this probably would have still happened to you. It's not personal. It's nothing you did to deserve it. There's nothing you did to cause it. And as a child, there's a lot of research that shows that these are survival mechanisms. Adopting the beliefs of the alienator parent is a survival mechanism. Oh, please give this a like to get it in the algorithm and for more people to learn about parental alienation. Share the video and stay tuned for the next one.